And before we end tonight's show, I want to share something very special with all of you. It's a story that's very close to my heart. It's the story of this newsroom, WION. Around this time last year, we were in the middle of an unprecedented crisis, just like the rest of the world. The front line had come into our newsroom. The pandemic hit us hard. Many of my colleagues were down with the Wuhan virus, but in order to continue broadcasting news to you and in order to keep the rest of the newsroom safe, we had to socially distance ourselves. But work from home was an uncharted territory for us. How can you possibly have anchors, producers, camera persons, editors, graphic designers, all working from different locations? Something like this had never been tried before. How do you possibly broadcast news from home? It's almost a deranged idea when pitched to a global TV newsroom, but we took up the challenge. We set up home studios, not just across India, but across the world. We began reimagining news flow, reimagining storytelling. Our editorial meetings went online. We're in the business of communication, and we had to go for a hard reset. 1 year on, I think we have pulled off an impossible. We are currently coming to you live from 6 different countries. Our news bulletins are being anchored from India, Kenya, the United States, Lebanon, South Africa, and Israel. Let me show you how our screen now looks like.
From our studios live in New York City, I'm Susan Tehrani, and this is WION, World is One.
President Trump certainly did not authorize the use of National Guard to protect the building.
People from many different countries, some who have been in America for generations, others who are more newly arrived.
So what Joe Biden has tried to do is definitely try to frame the election as a referendum on the president's handling of the pandemic.
Hello, I'm Jodie Cohen, broadcasting from Jerusalem. You're watching WION, World is One.
There is a sense that authorities are beginning to run out of ideas.
The second and third waves of COVID-19 hit Europe very, very hard.
Tokyo's 7-day average has actually fallen. Over a week ago, it was over 800 new cases a day.
200 community drugstores due to be included over the next 2 weeks.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One with me, Alison LaGrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa.
President Muhammadu Buhari says this latest attack on school children will be the last to occur in Nigeria.
It doesn't matter who is looking for power now, but the fact that it's not going more on attracting humanitarian issues.
You're watching WION News coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm Eric Nzoka.
You're watching WION World is One. I'm Reddy Francis, coming to you live for this newscast from Beirut, Lebanon.
President Putin has said that people have a right to express their opinion in Russia.
It's a huge blow for what remains of the pro-democracy movement here in Hong Kong.
This is the first of its kind for a global channel, and we are expanding this. In a few days from now, WION will be bringing you live broadcasts from 35 cities across the world. And we'll not only take you where the news is, but also broadcast bulletins from the epicenter. In the last couple of weeks, when the focus of the world shifted to West Asia and the fight between Gaza and Israel became the top headline, WION was bringing you live shows from Jerusalem, exclusive footage, ground reports, and our anchor hoping that a siren doesn't go off while she's delivering the news. We're very proud to share all of this with you. Let me also bring in a very special guest and a friend of WION, Simon Marks. He's the president of Feature Story News, and he's joining me live from Washington, D.C. Simon, good to see you.
Great seeing you, Palki.
Thank you for joining me on Gravitas. I was just telling our audience how WION has transformed itself over the last 1 year, and you've been an integral part of WION's journey. Do you think home studios and remote broadcast is the future of news?
Yeah, I think there's no question about it. I mean, I'm actually in my home studio now, where I have been working for the last 14 months because of the pandemic. We're beginning to start returning to our office here in Washington, D.C., but America, as you know, is not out of the COVID-19 woods yet. And the technology allows all of us in the television industry now to do things that were once absolutely unthinkable. I can broadcast to WION's audiences from my home studio here in Washington, D.C., or I can broadcast from the streets of Washington, D.C. using nothing more than my iPhone and turning that into a live high-definition broadcast camera. So the exciting thing about what WION has already done in terms of devolving the studio to these international locations, and that, as you said, we're going to be doing a lot more of together in the weeks and months ahead, is that you can be immediately reactive to news around the world wherever it is happening and report that news as it's happening from the places where it is occurring. And that's a very liberating thing. You know, radio has always operated like that, because radio has always been produced with far less complicated technology than we have to use in television. Well, now guess what? Television can be produced in a much more lightweight fashion as well, and sometimes it can literally be done with nothing more than an iPhone.
And taking broadcast to the epicenter of the news is liberating, as you said. Your agency, Simon, has championed home studios. What do you think is the biggest advantage of moving beyond the traditional studio?
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest advantage is that you can connect with people where they live. And the big established television studio in which you and I have spent most of our careers working in is a wonderful place. It's a magical place to be. Newsrooms are exciting, they're collegial. You pick up on bits of gossip and news and information that you otherwise wouldn't know. But at the end of the day, television news is really all about reporting stories. It's about telling people's stories, and those stories are not occurring in large corporate buildings, you know, beautiful LEED certified offices. They're occurring on the streets of towns and cities and countries all over the world. And so the ability to devolve to anchors and reporters in places where they are living those stories every day means that once you harness that editorial approach to what the technology now allows us to do, based as it is, most of it around the internet and not satellites, for example, or microwave signals, all of that becomes a really unique opportunity, I think, to tell people stories in a more effective fashion.
Indeed. Very excited for what's coming ahead. Simon, thanks very much and stay safe.
And you too, Palki.
Thank you. And for our audience, I think a lot of you may be wondering why I'm sharing my channel's journey and transition with you, and that too on primetime news. It's because we believe that you too are a part of our journey. It's also because in this journey, there's a moral for all of us. A story as important as the day's top headline. It's a story that underlines the need to change, the need to evolve, the need to adapt to the times. We cannot afford to sulk about what was normal before and what's not anymore. It's time we embrace this change, the masks, the social distancing, the work from home. Let's try to make the most of this new normal, for this is the future. And like they say, it's all about the survival of the fittest. That holds true for all global news channels, newsrooms, the audience, you and me. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.